I'm going to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the November 10, 2025 City of Kalispell's work session. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councillor Graham.
Here.
Councillor Dowd.
Here.
Councillor Dahlman. Here. Councillor Fisher.
Here.
Councillor Hunter.
Here.
Councillor Nunnally.
Here.
Councillor Carlson.
Here.
Councillor Gabrielle. And Mayor Johnson.
Here. All right, one item for discussion this evening, which is Central Garage Facility Review and Funding. Susie.
Yes, good evening, Your Honor and council members. This past spring, I presented to council on several items. A few that we're going to briefly review tonight include the essential services of the Central Garage and the current conditions of the Central Garage and the need for a new facility. Tonight, we also will be reviewing the next steps forward for utilizing the fiscal year 26 fund allocations to begin site selection and preliminary engineering for a new facility. We'll also be discussing a few options for construction of this important project. As a quick refresher, the city maintains over 325 pieces of equipment, tools, and fleet vehicles. And that's ranging from your high-speed patrol cars to your ambulances, your graders, your vac trucks, garbage trucks, lawn mowers, and so on and so forth. And of course, your ladder trucks and fire apparatuses. The equipment that we maintain is essential for our daily operations, and having a central garage capable of performing the repairs and maintenance needed to keep the fleet in service is critical to keeping the city running efficiently. I would be remiss if I didn't speak to the capabilities of our mechanics. The Central Garage is staffed by one supervising mechanic, Tom Tinney, who is here tonight, and two, soon to be three, mechanic technicians. Our mechanics are trained and certified EVT and ASE technicians, capable of servicing the wide variety of vehicles and equipment across all city departments. What makes our operations unique is that Central Garage functions as an all-in-one service facility. Every city department, from police to public works to parks, rely on the Central Garage. For the majority of our fleet, we don't have to outsource the repairs to other mechanics or shops in other cities, states. Having the capability to service our fleet under one roof keeps our fleet running efficiently, minimizes downtime, and saves both time and money for the city of Kalispell. However, our current facility presents several challenges. We're running up against space limitations, both in square footage and in building height. The building height restricts the number and type of vehicles we can safely service, such as our garbage trucks, ladder trucks, dump trucks, and Vector trucks. As our city grows, so does some of our equipment. And back in the 1970s and 80s, we just didn't utilize the same types of equipment that we do now. As such, the building didn't have to be as big back then. We also lack sufficient bays for space for routine maintenance activities, just as simple as our oil changes, tire replacements, and preventative maintenance. We don't have a properly ventilated area for fabrication and welding work. Our tire storage has become increasingly difficult as our fleet grows. We currently have 2 Conex boxes that store all of the light duty vehicles, and then we have a cold storage for our bigger tires for our larger fleet, but we need more tire storage. We also are running up against challenges for part storage. It's very limited, and we don't have the pieces on hand, which actually creates a lot of inefficiencies in daily operations. In summary, a larger central garage facility is really necessary to accommodate maintenance and repair operations for the city's current and growing fleet, and to ensure we can continue to operate safely, efficiently, and effectively. As we plan ahead, a new shop would be designed to support those operation efficiencies. Features that would help us meet those efficiencies include 3 general repair bays and a dedicated preventative maintenance fluid service bay to streamline those routine tasks. We also need a dedicated welding bay, which would have upgraded ventilation for a safer, more effective fabrication area to work, taller ceilings so we can bring in our larger pieces of equipment and work on them during the winter season. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, really dedicated area for part storage and tire storage, fluid storage. All things considered, to be able to facilitate these features, we need a facility that's about 13,500 square feet. And when we did a cost estimate, and this cost estimate was what I used last April when I presented, we need a $6 million to be able to construct this type of facility. The next step in initiating a new facility is to procure professional services to support the siting and preliminary engineering work. Funding for this effort was designated in fiscal year 26 general fund budget. If the council has no objections to moving forward with these professional services, those designated funds will need to be transferred to the central garage through a budget amendment. At this point, I'm looking for direction from council on whether to begin the budget amendment process so we can proceed with procuring professional services. So I kind of need some discussion now, and then I'll move into the next part of the discussion.
Questions on this discussion? To me, it seems reasonable to amend the budget to at least get this process started. But Mr. Hunter?
Where are the funds coming from then? If we amend the budget, what were the funds allocated to? And
they were in the general fund in the carryover cash. There's a designated amount for central garage. It just has to be brought from that general fund and moved into central garage, so then I can move forward with procuring professional services.
And what was the total of the carryover cash?
$600,000.
So we're just moving over 600,000.
Yep. And that'll support the siting of the facility, get us through the 30 to 60% design, and then get us some good cost estimates for a facility, and then moving forward.
Makes sense? General consensus to move forward with that amendment process? Be seen next meeting?
I guess, let me ask this real quick. How many years do you project that this size of building will suffice?
I projected it's going to last us for at least 30 years as a part of that. One of the things when we were looking at, and a lot of that is preliminary, as we move into the professional services, we'll look and we'll fine tune, and I'll be able to answer that question a lot better. One of the things that we looked at was being able to have enough service bays to bring equipment in, work on it, and as we're waiting for parts, because sometimes our equipment is torn apart and we're waiting for parts and pieces to come in, so then we have other bays. What we think we would need to do is to maybe shift work it. So we would bring in a mechanic crew in the evening to work on equipment to be ready for the next. So instead of a larger facility, expanding, you would alter your operations and management in a different way where we would bring in shift work to work on the equipment.
Have one bay essentially, or two maybe, where something's torn apart waiting.
Yep.
Another that's cycling.
But you could then continually work on even your preventative maintenance and your welding going on, but we'd have to do probably shift work. But that's a great question and something that we'll vet through and talk through it as we get into the more details of the facility.
What happens to the old building?
The old building will be repurposed to the sewer crew. The sewer crew at this time, or the sewer department, is a staff of 8 that are in a very small space, and their equipment is jammed in there. So we'll be moving them into this facility, and then we'll be shifting. We'll be doing a bit of shifting around. Essentially, almost every department in Public Works is kind of exploding at the seams. So you'll just see a lot of equipment being shifted and stored inside crew rooms, and crews will be a little bit shifting, but sewer would move into central garage. The streets department, who has now 14 staff members, are in, if you've ever go down to the the street department. They're jammed into this very small crew room also, so we'll probably split those up, and they all share one bathroom, so then we'll split up the streets crew and put them into the sewer section. So we're just gonna expand into the building with the other departments down at the shop complex.
That was my question as well.
Yep.
Did we just remind me when we did the budget, having it as carryover, and we didn't have it budgeted at that time is because we weren't ready yet. We didn't have the plans yet ready to go, or why did we not put it in the budget at
You
the
know,
time?
that was the decision of the city manager at the time. He felt that he might want to bring it back to council one more time to have the discussion to move forward.
Okay.
As simple as that. That's kind of what we're doing.
Any other questions?
No? Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you very much for that direction. I'll start moving forward. For a budget amendment, we do have to do a public hearing, and then we bring it to council for a budget amendment, so we'll start working on that process. So moving on to the second part of the discussion, which is reviewing the funding options for construction of the facility. So first we get to plan it, preliminary engineer, and then we get to fund the facility. Last spring, when we reviewed this topic, the recommended siting location for the central garage was within the shops complex westerly open space area, where the old buses used to park there. To fund the construction at that location, the city would need to obtain a loan. And we went through two options, two different types of loan options, a 10-year loan at 5% using intercap loan, or a 20-year loan from a local bank at 5%. I just used 5% interest rate to keep it even. I don't know if we would get 5%. For intercap loans, I believe it is a variable rate, but it does hover between 5 and 6%. But to go out just for a local loan from a bank, it's definitely going to be probably a little different than 5%, but I just was keeping it uniform as I was doing numbers, and really more just to give council an idea of what that cost would be and how that would affect the funds. So it wouldn't be a presentation without some charts and graphs. So really the intent of the table is to show you the fiscal year 26 budget for Central Garage. So this is what this year entails. And then when you split kind of what those costs are, you'll see the general fund really, it's like a 34-66% split between the general funds and the enterprise and assessment funds. And really, these are just informational for council to see where the funding for the Central Garage would come from. In comparison, if we look for fiscal year 27, and that would be incorporating a loan payment for a 20-year at 5%, what that breakout would be for each one of the 16 funds that supports that internal transfer fund of Central Garage. And then the blue column is the 10-year at 5%. And you can see if we went over to the 10-year, it pretty much just doubles really how much monies would be transferred from those funds over into Central Garage to pay for that bond payment. I know sometimes that it's, let's see if I can click on that. It's good to have a visual in the chart. Oh, I'm gonna do that different. There we go. Pardon me. Kind of just a different way to look at what that means. Really breaks out the funds. The majority of Central Garage comes from the street fund. The streets has the most amount of equipment and the highest cost for equipment most times. So a lot of that transfer that goes into Central Garage is from your streets fund, and then solid waste also. There's a lot of time we spend on our solid waste trucks. There's big pieces of equipment that are always in motion, and they take up a lot of time of the mechanics to repair, and they're costly when we have to repair them. But you can see also the other funds that definitely We spend a bit of time on police. Police has a very large fleet of vehicles, so we spend a lot of time on police, fire, and parks. Parks has quite a few number of vehicles. You just don't think about it, but parks actually has quite a few vehicles that we're spending time on in that aspect. Is there any questions on that portion of it?
What was the total amount borrowed again?
6 million?
6 million.
Yep. That's what I use for those scenarios. 6 million. Yep.
What does it cost once we move, oops, is that off? Once we move central garage out, let's say this happens, then the move of everyone else, is that part of the 6 million or is that an additional cost?
No, there's no additional cost to move. We would just move it.
Just move it.
Yeah,
okay.
I would just absorb.
You
those
don't have to
funds.
rebuild or clean and.
No. I think the only thing that we might do is we might put three-phase power opportunity into the central garage, because I don't believe there's three-phase power in there right now for when we're rebuilding pumps and motors.
Sure.
It's really helpful to have a bench, if you will, for when we're rebuilding those motors. So we might have to put that cost into the central garage building.
Okay.
But I would do that within the sewer fund and moving forward for those facilities. So as I continued to have discussions with the city manager on potential funding sources for the central garage, one of the alternatives that we thought was worth the council's consideration is constructing the central garage within the West Side TIF district. The TIF, Montana Code Annotated, does allow funds to be used for publicly owned facilities. And in this case, we're supporting all of the city departments, including utilities, fire, ambulance, law enforcement. And it definitely is an appropriate use of the TIF funds. Currently, the West Side TIF generates enough revenue in a single year to construct the facility. Of course, we would have to procure property, so there would be an additional cost to procure property that would be necessary. But being that the TIF funding is a potential option for moving forward with constructing a new central garage facility, I was just hoping to get council feedback on this funding alternative. And if that is maybe an option council may like to move forward with, we would just set up a future work session to go over more particulars on that.
Would that create a challenge being separated, having the garage separated from all the other apartments that are down there?
You know, it's a really good question. And in talking with Tom Tinney and Gene Corney, our road and fleet superintendent, right now it is optimal down at the shop complex. So I really do like it there. Primarily, I think, because it does service all the equipment for public works is down there, but not for all the other departments. So all the other departments bring their equipment to the facility. So the only change actually would be for the public works utilities. So we would be transferring them to a central garage in a different location. So it really only affects water, sewer, solid waste, traffic signs and signals. So what we would set up maybe a shuttle cars to be able to shuttle people back and forth for equipment. So an adjustment, we definitely would have to make an adjustment for some of the funds and departments, but not impossible.
Chad?
I was just gonna ask that myself. It just doesn't seem very efficient to separate them out. Like what you just said with the shuttle cars to go back
Yep,
and forth parts.
I mean, I think we would have to, like, again.
I mean, I understand the funding aspect of it, but also going and looking at doing something like this, you get to do it one time. So I want to make sure that it works.
Yep. No, you know, it was also one of those things, if the city can't afford funding in a different way, then maybe it's still a viable option that the city could do to afford a new facility.
With the option for the different department funds, so is that where basically those funds would be going to other purposes within those departments and we're pulling it out of those purposes to fund this? And so we're kind of like not funding some things that need to be funded, or help me understand the department funds option and where that money.
This option,
Yeah.
this is currently how Central Garage is funded. It's funded through 16 different internal transfer, or 16 different funds that has internal transfers. So the Central Garage has a budget, and then that is proportioned out based off of a 3-year running average of how much time and money we spent on their equipment. So no matter what, they're transferring into Central Garage from these other funds. It's an internal transfer fund.
But we're going to take some of that to pay off the loan then. So
No, this would be this is the loan option. Yeah, this is not, this is at the shop complex, this would be a loan options, because we don't have $6 million.
no, I know, but I guess my question is, we have a one-hand TIF, the money's there,
Yeah.
right? We can allocate it. Here, if we do a loan, we're making payments on it. That's money we would otherwise be using for something else, right?
Potentially, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering what that something else might be, if it's like,
Well,
what's
I guess that would be for future budgets and considerations as we went forward. For streets, as you look at the street fund transfer, you're doubling that, so you're taking away capital pavement projects. So I mean, it's
Well,
just
that's-
a shifting of funds.
yeah,
So
I mean, that's
so
my
you're not paving
question.
streets. So yeah,
Is that a big pinch? I mean, are we gonna really notice that those funds
yeah,
are available?
this is hard. This is hard on
Yeah.
especially those funds that and solid waste. Those are hard changes. So yes, yeah. So streets is easy. It's mill and overlay, street reconstruction projects would be reduced to be able to support the payment until we paid off a loan. Water and sewer, you adjust your CIPs for water and sewer replacements or any type of capital projects on that end. I can't speak specifically to police and fire. I just don't know their funding quite as well or their capital projects. So I don't know how they would have to adjust, but there would be adjustments for sure, because that money would go to what their current budget is paying for.
So we'd be looking at reduced street maintenance for 10 to 20 years under this plan versus TIF,
Yes.
where the funding's available and it's only 1 year's worth of, in a year, it's replenished.
That's my understanding. Yep. And I'll get into more particulars if it's like I said, if it's a viable potential option that council wants to vet further, I'll come back with more particulars on what that means. Jared is more versed on the West Side TIF district.
I mean, that's appealing. I think it's worth looking into when you look at it that way. 20 years potentially of fewer street maintenance projects versus 1 year of TIF money. I mean, it just seems like, yeah, let's look at that.
Yeah, just it comes down to that philosophical point of TIFs. Tax increment is supposed to be used to reinvest, to rebuild your tax base on the west side. So to take TIF money out of that kitty and buy real estate and takes it off the tax rolls. We understand that when Whitefish did that for City Hall, the legislature reacted in Helena negatively towards that because Whitefish did it. Was it Livingston or was it? No, it was Billings.
Or
Somewhere
Butte.
else did something with TIF. So the other side of this is we also have to pay attention to the political cost of what happens when you mess with TIF. And that's just one of those, and philosophically, I've always looked at TIF as this is where we use something to build up the tax base, to build future tax revenues within that district. So if we're gonna take from that, understand, we're taking from that future earnings, tax revenues. We're gonna lose some redevelopment of something somewhere, and we're taking that property permanently off the tax rolls. So, Mr. Dowd?
Yeah, so this only really potentially will affect the coming budget. We could adjust the budget in subsequent years to cover this in another fashion. We don't have to keep taking from streets, correct?
We don't. That we could look at just taking from the general fund itself, But that is more of a, like I said, that's a kind of a further discussion on if you want alternate funding to just come directly out of the general fund. But there's only so much of the pie that can be split in so many different ways. So that would be at council's direction, and if they wanted to shift those pie pieces a little bit different. To your point, Your Honor, we have been talking with some potential property owners that are already owned by public agencies.
Okay.
I just don't
already
have
what?
enough to bring
By
forward.
properties that are already off of the tax rolls,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes, yep.
So,
But nothing set in stone, just very high level preliminary discussions, on property that is already owned by a public agencies.
okay.
So,
But I would even go to what you said. To me, that's one part of that about TIF. The other part of it is how the money is spent, what it's spent on. So when you're pulling that money out, it's money that's no longer there to go and be used for a project that is redeveloping and creating a tax generating property back into the highest best use of the money.
Right.
That's what we've asked before, is like, what's the highest best use of the money or the funds? So
But on the flip side,
That's-
but,
this
but
is-
on that flip side, it does free up other general fund money
And it's,
that is better for the community as a whole. Because the other side, remember, we have a really interesting history of TIF funds. Remember, right? We use TIF funds to fund kid sports. And those TIF funds transferred from south of town to north of town. Walk in. So not necessarily, but there is a history of using funds, TIF funds.
yep, we also
things like this.
utilize TIF funds to build the parking lot on 18th and the sidewalk infrastructure. So in the past, we have utilized TIF funds to support public infrastructure.
Public infrastructure.
and it's a 1 year thing. So if we have the next year, another year of, replenishing it, we have those funds available to do those investments in tax benefiting projects and,
Yeah, I think we want to verify it's the 6 mil.
I will
Sounds
for
high,
sure.
yeah.
In discussions with Jared, he told me that it would be enough in 1 year to be able to cover that cost.
and I mean.
And I'll verify and have specifics on numbers and everything. If it's worthy of a future work session, then I'll set that up for sometime in December and get that going.
I think it's
early
always
January.
worth looking at.
And it does, because part of that question is, it does strike me as 6 million is 1 year's worth. We're not spending 6 million a year in Westside TIF, right? So that's quite a number. So, I do wonder if it's,
I will
that's
go back
correct.
and verify, but I should have verified before the meeting. I apologize, but I will go back and verify, and we'll get emails on updating on that number. to
And I
verify.
think what may have skewed that is, as bad as businesses get killed in real estate taxes this year and are going to next year, I'm not shocked that the TIF is going up. My only question is, how long do businesses bear that?
Yep.
So there's changing landscape with real estate taxes too, especially when we look at the level that businesses are. All they did was essentially change it. They tiered it, they put in a progressive real estate tax system, and businesses got hammered on their real estate taxes, so.
just so I just understand this, the first proposal is to go through and use the central garage transfer as a part of the funding for the payment for the loan?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And the other option is, do we look at TIF and
Yeah.
see what does TIF do for funding? So I think it's worth looking at all the different financing options.
Okay.
Then I can blame a future mayor and future council for whatever they do. God, this is gonna be fun, Ryan. I can't wait to come back. Point my finger.
One of those big foam sports fingers.
So, make sense?
Yeah. I will schedule a future work session on that, and we'll also set up bring forward a public hearing to do the budget amendment to start procuring professional service. So, thank you. That really concludes everything that I had for tonight.
Okay. Any public comment?
Hello, my name is Mandy Girth, Gerth, 1245 7th Avenue East, Kalispell. And I am making a comment, a request in a personal capacity. I am currently the Director of Development at North Valley Food Bank, and I reached out to Flathead Food Bank to see if they'd want to come make a comment tonight too, but they're not available. They're getting ready for their big fundraiser on Thursday. So I am here to request the City of Kalispell to make a proclamation of support for Flathead Food Bank. And I'm just going to share my own personal story of using Flathead Food Bank. So in 2020, I was a single parent of 3 children, recently divorced, and earning just above the federal poverty line. And despite working full time, more than half of my full-time income was going towards rent. We all remember 2020, for our small apartment. And like so many in the Flathead, that math just never worked out. Because of Flathead Food Bank and other area nonprofits, and together with the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, that helped me stay stably housed and feed my family. Visiting the food bank first and then using SNAP for other staples for the week made the difference between scarcity and stability. My story is not unique. Many in Flathead Valley work full-time and still can't make ends meet. With the rising costs of housing, childcare expenses, heating, the price of groceries mean that even small disruptions, like delayed benefits or new eligibility rules, can push families into crisis. Today, I'm very fortunate to be in a stable place, but thousands of our neighbors in Kalispell rely on local food banks as a lifeline. In this moment, our local food banks continue to serve, and now at record numbers, offering households nourishment and hope. Last week, the city of Whitefish issued a proclamation affirming the right to food security for all and pledging its support to North Valley Food Bank. That leadership is making a really big difference to our food bank in Whitefish, and it sends a powerful message that food security is a shared community value across our region. In that same spirit, I respectfully ask the City of Kalispell to consider issuing a proclamation of support for Flathead Food Bank, honoring the staff, volunteers, and donors who make this work possible, and recognizing the central role they play in building a healthy, resilient community for all of us. Thank you for considering this request and for all of your service to our community.
Thank you. Any other comment? Anything online? No? At this point in time, city manager report?
The city offices are going to be closed tomorrow for Veterans Day to celebrate our veterans. Other than that, I don't have anything to report.
Okay, council? Mr. Hunter, I'm just gonna go right to left. Anyone over here? Just coming. Okay, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I would support the proclamation, even though our government looks like it's going to be opening up soon and SNAP benefits returned and so on. My understanding, it will be some time before the funding gets on the ground, and there will be a period where there's continued need. So certainly sending the message to the community that need remains, and support for our food bank is important. And then I just want to extend my gratitude to the voters for their support and the trust they put in me in Tuesday's election. I want to thank my opponents in the race, Mr. Dowd and Ms. Davison. They ran both great campaigns. And looking forward to stepping in the role in a few months, and I know I have big shoes to fill, and so looking forward to that, and I appreciate the offer you extended, Mayor, about helping out. Definitely would like to meet with you before I step in and get your advice on moving forward.
You'll
So.
learn that they're clown shoes, so. Okay. Mr. Graham?
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate everybody, those successful in their campaigns. Mr. Fisher, Mr. Hunter, congratulations, and for the other candidates that it's still a success to step out there, put yourself out there to be vetted and run for office. So that's a success as well. But I'm ready to be off the council and look back over my shoulder and see how the new council operates, how it does. It'll be interesting to watch from a distance. So congratulations.
He's already got his vacation shirt on.
It's always got a
Hey.
vacation shirt.
Yeah, the only thing,
Does Sandy have anything?
yeah, Sandy, does she have anything? No?
No, I'm good, but
Oh,
thank you.
Okay,
Congratulations, Ryan and Jed.
Thank you.
okay. The only thing, I concur, Mr. Hunter, I think a proclamation would be good. I mean, the food bank, I'm on the board when I can make meetings at noon. Do a tremendous amount of good work in the community. And I think anything we can do to help support them is needed. And really kind of go back, looking the other side of this is the food bank is pretty tired in Kalispell and looking to raise money to remodel, expand. And, I think it's one of those critical things. I think of proclamations in due order, so we can work on that with Jared. Okay. And then the only thing I have is, one, congratulations to everybody who put their name in the hat, winners, losers, etc. This is one of those things where we step out, we put our name in front of everybody, and then what's amazing is we earn this great mantle to do what's best for the community as a whole. And I've enjoyed my 12 years doing it, and like Mr. Graham, I'm going to be enjoying looking from afar and taking a breather and seeing how it works, seeing what Monday Night Football looks like, and hopefully seeing Gonzaga in a national championship on a Monday night where I don't have to be distracted with a council meeting. So with that, we're going to move into executive session. Council will retire upstairs into the boardroom or the meeting room up there, and we'll move forward from there.